Okay, welcome everyone. Just give me a second. I'm just waiting for YouTube page to update. There we go. So welcome everyone. This is 16th November, the orchestration demo. I will kick off with the first action because this is quite a fun one. After digging through a bunch of Zoom settings, so for those of you who were here last week, I had an action to figure out why we couldn't live stream last week. I actually concluded that I think it was because we had those Zoom problems. I think that was why the feature wasn't available. I didn't change anything. So I think it's okay, but I'll double check for you, Matt, on whether that's the cause for your stuff. So this may be working. Let me go and double check. But over to the demo section. So very happy to see we have a couple of items here. So great work, Myra, Steve, for getting things ready to be demoable. Myra, I'll hand over to you.
Yep, thank you. So I'm gonna share my screen. I'm probably gonna share my whole desktop. So, okay, I assuming you are seeing my screen, and if not, please say something. So I want to demo how are we going to fetch, or how are we going to, basically get the number of unreleased commits for active stable branches. And for that, just a bit of context. So right now we have the release manager dashboard, and to see the release pressure, well, we observe this graph, and this graph basically tells us, okay, we have 4 merge requests with a peak into label for 15.5, then we have 12, and then we have 16. I can actually click this and corroborate. So for 15.5, we have 4 merge requests with this label. And then if I click on this, we have, well, 4 merge requests with peak into 15.4, and we can see that we have a lot. And well, the same is going to go for 15.3. So with the new maintenance policy, we are basically going to deprecate this behavior in favor of getting the pressure based on unreleased commits. Now, unreleased commits are those commits that have been merged into a stable branch, but have not been included in any tag. For example, if we go to the stable branch of GitLab, like the current stable branch, which is 15.5, we can see that we actually don't have any unreleased commit because all of them were merged after the last tag. So this is the last tag, like 15.5.4. And well, we can corroborate that if we take a look at the tag. So the last tag is 15.5.4, and well, the commit is basically the same. We have D3DD, and then it's, well, it is the same. Another easy way to take a look at this is, and of course, if the Zoom control lets me move ahead, come on, move. Okay, yes, is to see the compare. So in the compare, this is a very handy page that we can compare, okay, what is the difference between the stable branch and the tag? And we can see that, okay, we don't have anything. So for 15.5, everything has been released. It is not the same story for Gitaly, for example. In Gitaly, we can see that we can do the same comparison, and we can see, okay, I'm going to compare the commits between the stable branch and the last tag, and I can see that we actually have 2 commits that have been merged into the stable branch, but have not been released. So there is still a pressure in this project for Gitaly. Now, what we have been doing for this is to basically add some classes. This merge request is still in progress. Well, it is still in review. It has been reviewed by Steve and Alessio, and I'm hoping to get it merged soon. But basically, what I'm going to demo today is going to be these classes. And just to make it very brief, this class is going to fetch what are the current versions we have according to the maintenance policy, or to the new maintenance policy. And then for each of those versions is going to iterate for the projects that are under managed versioning, which is GitLab, Omnibus, Gitaly, and CNG. And then it is going to get basically the unreleased commit for stable branch. Now, I know this sounds very blurry, but it is going to be very, I think, more obvious once I demo this. So I assuming now you can see my terminal, right? So, yes, of course, when I am demoing this, I forgot about all the commands. So I'm just going to call this class, this touch release, and then, well, the first thing is that you can notice is that it is going to fetch all the versions that are current under the new maintenance policy, which is going to be like right now, it will be 15.5, then 15.4, and then 15.3. And then if I type execute the method, well, it's going to start making some requests. Now, this is very, very verbose, but it is actually easy to explain. So, of course, Zoom doesn't let me see anything, so I'm going to move this around. All right, awesome. So, for example, for the first one, we can see that, okay, it's analyzing GitLab, the project. It is analyzing 15.5.4, and it is comparing that against the branch, and it is saying, okay, we don't really have any commits, which is just the diff that the compare page that we saw on the web. And it is saying the same for Omnibus. And for example, then it is going to analyze Gitali. And on Gitali, it's saying, hey, we do have some stuff. We do have actually 2 commits that are the just 2 commits that we saw on the web. And then it is going to analyze CNG. And then it is going to do the same for 15.4. It is going to analyze GitLab, Omnibus, Gitali, and CNG, and then it is going to start with 15.3, and then again GitLab, Omnibus, Gitali, and CNG right here. But the end result is the thing that it is the most important here. It is going to return, okay, of those 4 projects, like what is the total of unreleased commits, and for those projects is basically 3. For 15.5, then for 15.4 is 1, and for 15.3 is 5. Now, this is the information that we want to send to delivery metrics, so it gets pushed and then, well, visualized in the release manager dashboard. By doing this, I notice, well, this is the demo, but by doing this, I noticed that the unreleased commit information is useful, but it is not the most accurate because, for example, I return to this, and I'm going to move the thing from Zoom. Yes, for CNG. For CNG, then we are comparing the stable branch against the last tag of that version, and it is actually returning 1 commit.
Myra, can you try comparing with, so CNG, this is something that I noticed when I was reviewing your merge, not the merge request, but a documentation update. So CNG, it's a strange beast. It's tagging 4 times for each version. So is it possible, asking here, that the last, so we first do CE and then we do EE, and that's the reason why, because we have a single stable branch, but multiple tags. So is it possible that if we compare with version 15.5.4-EE, we're going to see no changes?
I thought about it, but I think the tags is the same. The content of the tags is the same. So this one, and let's see. So I lied. So it is not, there is no diff. Okay, so that works. But I guess the problem is going to happen for any other project. For example, for...
Yeah, this is a good example, Gitali, because you see 2, but then the real pressure is 1.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly, I guess. Well, no, actually, I think in this case, there are 2 merge requests. So the actual...
No, it's just 1.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. So my question would be the same. The number of unreleased commits is handy, but it is not completely accurate. And I guess to actually measure the pressure for patch releases, we will need to use merge requests, not commits.
We can use merge
to kind of avoid. Yeah, to kind of avoid the situation and the one from CNG. So what do you think?
About that or about general?
Maybe I can't hear you. I don't know if it's only me.
I can
you hear me now?
Yeah,
yes.
I can now.
Okay, great. Do you mean, Myra, do you mean about that last point or about general, when you say like, what do you think, what's the framing of that question?
Yeah, thank you. About using merge commits or merge requests as a more accurate metric for patch pressure.
Do we have other options?
So we could use unreleased commits as is, but that will not be very accurate because all of these scenarios. We could use merge requests, which I think is going to make the metric more accurate, or we can also make it smarter and use a combinations of merge requests with priority, because we could have a lot of merge requests merge into a stable branch, but all of those merge requests could be like documentation changes or could be like bug fixes for flaky failures. But then if we have a merge request that was merged that is a severity 1, then that puts more pressure or more urgency than having 10 merge requests with documentation changes.
And what was your suggestion, Alessio? Merge commits, did you say?
No, I was saying that what we have here is just a list. What we can download with the code that Myra showed up is a list of commits. But then we can see from the commit itself if it's a merge commit or not. So in cases like this, so let's say that we have old patches with just one single commit, we are going to say the pressure would be double the real pressure. Because every commit will have a code change commit plus the merge commit, right? So we know that the number is at least double. It could be double, or otherwise it can be even worse, because if someone made patch made of several commits, but it's a single merge request, then it will count more for no reason. So to keep it, say, in parity with what we have right now, let's see, if we can filter just by merge commit, it's going to give the same value. To build on top of what Myra was proposing, and kind of something that came to my mind when I was now seeing the code in action, is that we are kind of losing information when we extract, because we get out a number. So we see this is the version, this is the number. Each version has an unreleased commit number. But now that we're going to push this to a matrix, we could say something like, say, counting merge requests, right? Commits, I think we all agree that counting the single commits is kind of not really worth doing. But if we could add, what's the label? Because this is a metric, labels counting for the project and the priority, then we're going to have something like a matrix that can sum everything. So we say, what's the overall pressure? Because it's a matrix, so you can sum everything on this metric and just give a number. But then you can say, tell me the number of P1 changes, or tell me the number of Gitali changes. So we can do breakdown on several dimensions, project and priorities. And being this labels is something that we can consider adding later. If we don't want to go at the beginning with a full implementation, I would say probably split by project is something we should bake in since the beginning, because it's easy. We already have, I mean, it's the easiest things to get out, because we fetch by project, but then we are summing. So we can just have nested keys so that we can push the value by project. This is simple. There's no extra things involved, like trying to figure out what is the merge request and the priority of the merge request and things like that. Yeah, so that was the basic idea.
Yeah. So to summarize, I think we should definitely use merge request, and then we can extend the information that is returned to also return unreleased commits by project, group by version, which is going to be more informative than just the plain number. So yeah. One thing that you mentioned, Alessio, is that if they merge a merge request with multiple commits in it, I think we should use the squash to force the squash option on the stable branches. It is the same option that we use on security merge requests to always merge, like to always use only the merge commit and not the 7 or 10 commits. And it might be helpful to consider it for this stable, for canonical as well.
And what happened for the changelog? Because that's the thing, right? So the changelog came from the commit. So they may have done something. This is what we support in development workflow, right? So they can build something which is made of several commits and each one has a changelog entry. And when you say backport, they say, okay, I'm gonna backport the whole thing. So it's gonna bring all the commits with their own history and changelog. But when we force the squashing, then the changelog will be, what's gonna be the first one? I don't remember. The default is taking the first one, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be an interesting scenario. Probably something that we don't really need to discuss now, but
yeah, I think it's not important to us. I mean, it's just
okay.
If we can filter by clearly identify the merge commits, and I'm sure we can, then we don't really bother about how many things are in there, right? Because it's a stable branch. It's going to be merged. It's going to be have its own QA and test run. And if it's 1 commit, 10 commit, thousands. I mean, I will leave this to the to the maintainer discretion. Say, so we are changing 1 button color and you're making 10 commits.
Well, I'm gonna save my comments there. I would like to ensure some cleanliness in the stable branch, but I guess that is a completely different story. But in regards with the work that Graves is doing, I remember that he wants to spin up an environment every time something is pushed to the stable branch. So perhaps he's going to require to apply the same logic. It needs to create an environment per merge commit instead of every commit. I'm not sure if that is going to affect that.
But no, it should not affect that because the real commit landing on the stable branch is the merge commit. Because before you merge, they are on another branch, and when you merge, the head of the branch is the merge commit. So the question for him is more about what happens when you have several several merge requests merge at the same time, which is less common in this case, but could still happen. And we were discussing there's a feature in the CI that I don't remember right now when you say that a job may be obsoleted by the next one. And so you stop and you don't run it, and you right. If it started, you let it go.
But if is canceled.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Myra, how would a new project component or something get registered into this? Like, if when we do the work to start patching something else, like, do we also have other documentation or things that we need to make sure we know to make changes here, or is there some automated thing involved?
Yes, good question. Thank you. So in release tools, we actually have a lot of places in which these projects are listed. I think Alessio brought these ones, and we have a lot of technical depth there. So for these merge requests, what I did is to try to centralize this logic into a single file. So for example, this file under our code base is listing, okay, all these projects are right now the ones that are under managed versioning. So if by tomorrow or like in a month, we want to add CAS or we want to add pages, we will need to, make sure that they comply with all the requirements for managed versioning, and then add the project here in this list. So it will be automatically included into all this computation. And yes, I am going to document that.
Cool, great. Are these the only projects we patch for at the moment?
Yes.
Just 4?
Well, we do more, but these are the only ones that we include the peek into label.
Yeah, you have charts as well and the operator and those, but they're not automated for patch releases.
I see. Okay.
So they would just receive, I think they just receive an information that something has been tagged and they do some kind of magic.
I see. Okay, cool. All right, thanks. Cool. Is there anything else you want to demo or discuss on that one, Myra?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for demoing. Steve, over to you.
Thanks. So mine actually builds directly off of the work that Myra has been doing. And so I've been working on the blog post for the patch releases. And so I'll go ahead and share my screen as well, I suppose. Let's see which one I want to share. Okay, so you should see my notes now. So mine actually, it branches off of Myra's branch because we realized that we're both kind of fetching a lot of the same information. And so with the release post or with the blog post for the patch release, currently it's generated automatically when the prepare command is run in ChatOps, I believe. And then anytime during the actual patch process, when people are running the merge command in ChatOps, we bring in the different AMER descriptions and those get inserted into the blog post. So now, since we won't be doing that process in the same way, we want to be able to just create the blog post once, like at the time of tagging or at any particular time, just based off of sort of that same idea where there's this release pressure and anything that's on that list should be included in the blog post. So I guess first I'll start out by kind of demoing this rake task and showing what it kind of does. And so I chose to just start a new rake task. And that way it's sort of isolated. It's not run by anything else. But the idea being that if you run this task, then it will generate the blog post and it'll create the merge request for you. So I preset my token here so I didn't have to live stream it accidentally. So it's just this release, patch release blog post task. And I'm doing a dry run, yep. And so you'll see a lot of similar things from what Myra's was doing, because first it also collects all of the commits, but then we do take it a step farther and then collect the merge requests from those commits. So here we can say, or we can see that from the GitLab project, we're collecting the commits for this version. And we can see that there were no commits, unfortunately. So, but then right after that, it would have fetched merge requests for those commits. But in this case, it did not. And actually, did it actually fetch any merge requests? I'm not sure. It looks like it did not. So that
maybe the actually one.
Yep, I think down here we've got a couple. But one other thing I'll do real quick is we can actually look at the output of this by if we look at the rake task. So the rake task is using that same coordinator to generate this content, and we create the blog request or blog merge request by using providing it a set of versions and then a set of blog content from this coordinator. And then what I will do is I will remove this single dry run, so I'll end up writing a file to my system of what the blog post will look like. And we can run this one more time. There's one commit right here. So if we come back in here, you can see I created a markdown file. And inside of here, there was only one version that had a single merge request, which was that Gitaly one that we saw. So it is listed here. And so the way I've set it up is, even though it's representing these three versions, it will only actually add a section currently if there is something to list. And interestingly, one of the things that we kind of just discussed about the merge commits versus the code commits, I think I noticed when there is or the way I've set it up is we take all of the commits that come in. So this is that unreleased commits that Myra had implemented. And then we find all the different merge requests for each commit. And so I do duplicate them so that we only have a listing of one merge request for each, if there's multiple commits. But then there are a lot of cases where we have commits that are not associated with any merge requests. So this kind of removes them as well because there won't be any merge requests. So that's why, even though there might have been a couple commits, we only ended up with one listing here. And when I ran it the other day, I ran one on previous versions. And so we can see here, I think one of these merge requests that popped up here actually had 8 or 9 commits, but it all got kind of squashed down into one. And let's see if there's anything else really interesting going on in the code. But yeah, the main idea is pretty much in this coordinator, which we saw a little bit from Myra. Oops, that's the wrong coordinator. So we use the same set of versions. And then in this case, for the blog content, we grab the unreleased merge requests for any given project or version. So we're kind of doing the same thing here to an extent. We go through each version and each project, grab all of the merge requests, and then just put them in a collection of version and merge requests so that they can be listed out in the blog post with one section for version, at least for now. And yeah, I don't think there's anything else that I kind of missed here, but yeah, curious on any questions or anything in particular that you see.
I have a question which is sort of, you've made me realize it's not directly linked to the blog post, I guess, but in the event that we did, that was the patch release that we were publishing and it was just on the one version, would we only publish the package for that version, or would there be an updated package, I don't know, with like some kind of version files or something, or would it literally be if there was only one commit and it happened to be on 15.4, only a 15.4 package would be released?
That's a question I'm not sure if I know how to answer. I mean, I know this, like in terms of the blog post, this will just be an MR, so it can easily be edited. But in terms of how the package
works, that's what I'm kind of thinking about.
See if someone else can answer that one.
Yeah, because I mean, like we can certainly, I guess what I was leading up to asking was, if that was the case, then what we can do is just add some guidelines for release managers that we could do like a little cleanup on this blog post to just make it specific to the versions. But Myra, have you given some thought already onto like what would you want to happen?
Yeah, I think it is one of those open questions that we have right now. For me, it will be natural to if we only have one merge request for one version, then it will be just to ship that version and not to ship 3 empty packages. But then again, it will be some sort of weird case, because if we only have one commit, that means that we shouldn't have started a patch release in the first place because there is not enough pressure.
No, necessarily though, right? We could have like an S1 that's only on one version. Like, I guess like it's not a big deal, but I'm just curious, I guess, as to like what we are intending to see, because I think that will allow us, like if we are saying that theoretically we could put out one version, like a package that's just one version, then we can just add some notes around this patch release post to make sure that we clean this up, because I think what we write in the blog post on the version number should match what the packages that actually get published are. Otherwise that gets confusing.
I have a follow-up question, or I mean, let's say it's a follow-up question. It's still on this. It's if we change when we change the policy, will the policy state that we must support 3 versions, which means, let me conclude this, which means that if a bug is found, we must fix on the 3 version, or is up to the PM decide what to support? Because I would say that if we support 3, then we have to fix 3.
I think
Well,
they're
I think that
largely
it
the
depends.
same. I think it's largely the same question. Is kind of how I'd view it. So I think, I think generally we would want to fix in all 3, and I would be surprised if there was a product manager who said I don't want to. But I also doubt it would be a set in stone. Like I could imagine a scenario where you have a bug fix in, say, the last 2 versions, and actually trying to fix it in the 3rd version might actually cause another problem based on code, right? Like I can imagine some scenarios where it might actually be worse to put the bug fix in, and that we may make a decision not to. I think it probably depends on the bug.
Yeah, so you will say that the baseline is that if the patch cleanly applies, you will apply on all the 3 version, right? Because this is what we say, we support it. So I think this will truly diminish the possibility of not having something to release. I mean, if we look at the pressure right now, I think I've never seen things being a 0, but I would say
agree.
that
I agree.
we may strive to have this process so simple that we may consider running as much as we can. And so we may end up in a situation where actually we are working off that queue, right? So we see the pressure high now because we never do, we never patch the older one, but maybe that's true that maybe you do once and then the older version, you end up not having stuff. So
yeah,
I
think
totally
the risk
agree
is
that
if we are saying
it makes no sense to release something that is nothing there.
Yeah. And what I'm thinking as well is I guess what the risk I was seeing of the mismatch is if we don't publish a package, then if we say in the blog post that actually it also included a 15.3.5, but we actually didn't publish a 15.3.5, then the next time the version numbers will be out of sync. So
this is not the case, because the version number are fetched from the version server. So they are actually relevant to, at the end, we publish and we mark what we have released, because this triggers notification to upgrade and things like that in instances. So there are things related to that. So no, but it will still be off, right? Because you see, I mean, it's on the screen right now. Today we are releasing versions 1, 2, 3, and then see this version does not exist.
Fine, makes sense. Okay, cool.
And I think that's something, I mean, programmatically, I can detect, this version doesn't have anything, so remove it from, all the different places it's listed. I do think it'll be interesting.
Want to remove the second, the next section would say, because this is referring to the current month.
Yeah.
This is the versions of a number of regressions and bugs in this month's whatever release, right? It's true, but not strictly, right? So you may end up, you don't know what you're releasing. Maybe you're releasing only 15.4 or 15.3, and this is just
true. I think it'll be interesting from the product manager perspective to see how things happen as this initially is released. Because I think like what I've seen is that bugs either just go into the current version and there's no question about backports, or it's backported, and so I would expect that it's either going to just be it's not backported at all, or hopefully it's done in all 3. But it'll be interesting to see whether or not the product managers actually follow that behavior right away.
Oh, yes, definitely. Great, thanks for demoing, Steve. Is there anything else you want to discuss or get from that around that demo before we move on?
I don't think so.
Awesome. Are there any other topics that would be useful to discuss? No? Okay, super. In which case, thanks very much. Great to see you all. Thanks for the demos. Thank you, Steve, for writing all the notes as well. You're a super note taker, and all of the good notes are for Steve, and all of the poor notes are from the rest of us. So thanks, Steve.